Hi, this is Mike Koenigs. Today I'm going to show you how to edit with Google Docs the right way. That might sound a little bit off-putting at first, but I promise you, you're going to learn a lot about how to actually format, copy, and text. I'm here today with Jamie, who's going to be looking over my shoulder and answering questions as well, just in case some of things aren't clear, or we may come up with some good ideas together that will increase the value of this training. Say hi to everyone, Jamie.
Hi, everybody.
There. All right. So we're ready to rock. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be copying between two documents just to show you this. So I'm going to call this this first part Google Docs step-by-step training. So instead of having to type it in, I'm just going to paste it here. The first thing that I'm really going to show you is titling a document. So when I copy that, if you click up here, always make sure you create an extremely content-rich title for your document so it's easy to find later on. So that's number one. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and select title from our style. So if I just click on that, you'll see that it looks nice, and I might make a bullet point, and it will say, always make sure you create a content-rich title so it is easy to find later on, and if you share it with someone, that they can remember what it is all about. I'm not going to type a lot of stuff for you today, except that is really important. Now, one of the things that I want to show you here is, generally speaking, you never want to insert a bunch of extra spaces. You want to take advantage of the built-in styles inside of Google Docs. So when we look across the navigation here, the general recommendation I have is never mess around with fonts, never mess around with the size of the font. I'll explain that to you later on. And then always use the controls for numbered lists and bullets and indents. Again, that'll make a lot of sense as we move forward. Now, one of the things that I stylistically do with all of my documents when I create them is I make a point of either putting purpose or results at the top of my document. And because this is a header, I'm going to format it using heading 1. So, and I'll just say something to the effect of always, or the purpose of this document is to guide you through how to create a properly formatted document in Google Docs that is easy to edit and formats properly in any software or exported application. Okay, that's not probably really fancy, but what does that mean? Well, it means that if you're using the built-in formatting and you export or save as, let's say, a Microsoft Word document or something that you might turn into a Kindle document at some point, that it's going to scale properly and look really good. The styles in particular are a very important part of this, and it is possible to actually create your own styles. But once you start assigning styles to your copy, you don't end up having to tweak things with, let's say, your own fonts or your the numbered sizes, the font sizes. And ultimately, if you ever import this into a real page program, let's say like any of Adobe's software, for example, you'll be able to apply a different style to, let's say, an H1 or an H2, and every single occurrence of that will change everywhere instead of being stuck with having to manually change everything. I hope that makes sense to you. So I'm going to cover some of the main points here, and I'm actually going to copy them into this document right now. So I'm going to just copy and paste all of the bullet points that we're going to cover today. Okay, so we're going to cover styles. I already talked about messing with font styles. So what I could do right now is say, well, maybe I'll call this heading 2. and I'm going to just actually add a bullet. So I click on a bulleted list. Now, why do we do that? Well, it turns out that I often see people in documents start putting like a dash and then say this thing. And you'll notice that actually Google Docs recognized that it was a dash thing, the other thing. Now, a big mistake I see people make is they start hard coding stuff. Well, what would happen if you want to copy this or indent further and you've been hand entering your indents? Well, it's going to end up looking crappy, and it's not going to carry over with a consistent style. So once again, with whatever this happens to be, you can see that that changed back to a bulleted style here. But never hard code dashes or some other weird character. Always, always use the bulleted list. Again, if your content ever gets sent to an editor who's going to format this into, let's say, a book, you're going to create an enormous amount of ugly, stupid work for them later on. Okay? So I'm going to just call this bullets. And again, I can select this, choose heading 2. Okay, and we don't need that extra space there, by the way. Again, by not adding extra spaces, you'll see that the built-in styles do a really good job of formatting everything for you automatically. And if this gets imported into a professional layout program, nothing else needs to get tweaked. So they can literally change the style to a different font, and everything changes and follows through. Now there's another really important thing I'm going to add under formatting here. And what I'll do is I'm going to teach you a really, really cool strategy. It's called pasting without formatting. The key that you want to use, so I'm going to bulletize this, is Shift, Command, Option, V. And if you are using a Windows machine, it'll be Alt instead of Option. Okay, so that's for a Mac. Now, what does that mean? Well, let me just show you the paste without formatting. And I'm going to create a sub. Actually, I should do this in reverse. You can see now if I change that, I can change the order, rearrange it, paste it, and then indent it either by clicking on this or hitting my tab. All right, so how does that work? Well, I'm going to head on over and grab, I'm going to go to my Facebook page here. And this is something that we'll be using frequently when we're creating a manual. But here's a guy who actually just made a really nice sticker. I assume it is. Let's just take a look at it, see what it looks like. Okay, he's got himself an Amazon #1 bestseller. Well, here I might want to select all this because I want to take this link and embed this graphic inside this document. So I'm going to go over here, and you'll notice that I selected this whole thing. I did a copy. Okay. And if I right click, I could hit copy. Now, if under normal circumstances, if I just did a normal paste, it would paste in all the formatting, and this could cause us all sorts of problems later on, and we don't need all these details anyway. So if I do Shift, Option, Command, V, it actually pastes in without the formatting. And okay, so I'm going to delete the first chunk. And I might want to, give credit where credit is due. So I could have left the Jason Jordan part on here. I'll just say Jason Jordan from. So I might want to maybe take this, maybe make it a heading 3, and maybe we want to indent that. So again, never hard set it up, and don't create your own rulers for this. I'll explain that in a little while. But then I want to embed the link to this. So, okay, so here we go. Now what I want to do is I want to get a permanent link to this. So I'm going to click on it. So I have the permanent link. Okay, and now that I have that, I'm going to go up here and grab the permalink. Boom, copy. Paste it inside here. Now that one, when I do a paste, when I hit enter, it turns into a live link. And again, I might want to, again, we don't want to tab that. We actually want to indent it properly. And then if we wanted to, we could also even grab this image and we could embed it as well, and also preview it too. So what I'll do right now is do a preview, and I'll just show you a really quick and dirty way to embed this on the Mac. If I do Shift Command 4, okay, I'm actually going to do a select. This is actually going to save this as a PNG file on my desktop that I will be able to easily embed inside here. Okay, so if I do an insert image, okay, and I'll go out to my desktop here and choose an image to upload. Okay, there's a screenshot. It uploads the file, and boom, now it's embedded in there. Okay, so it's a great way to start creating our content and format it. So hopefully that makes sense. But again, embedding and formatting this properly is really, really important. And again, I'm going to go through rulers soon. Okay, so next thing, something called ShiftEnter. Now I'm going to create a circumstance here where let's say, for example, I'll call this the ShiftEnter strategy heading 2, and I'm going to say maybe I've got a bunch of bullets, so I'm going to say number 1, number 2, and I'm going to do a little shortcut here because I'm lazy. Number 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Now, if I selected this and put bullets, let's say, for example, I want to put something under this like a space. If I do Shift Return, now I can put spaces underneath that, so I can put additional text without having bullets. Okay. Pardon me?
It stays in line.
It stays in line. That's exactly right. It's adhering to the formatting. So if I pasted a bunch of this, see how nice that looks?
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you put an enter, you know, sometimes you don't want to put a sub-bullet. This is extremely useful. And again, for something like this, you might say, well, I want to do bold and underline to highlight it. That would be an acceptable formatting strategy. But ShiftEnter is a really, really useful thing. I see so many people try to insert spaces and stuff like that, which is something else I'm going to cover in a little while. So again, with numbering, bullets, and indents, we've pretty well covered all these. But the key is always use standard formatting. Do not hard code anything. And I'll get to the spaces in a moment, okay? And this is another thing. Anytime you see a red line, right-click on it, do a replace. This thing can spell better than you can, so don't ignore it. Okay, so I'm going to click again on these indents. You can again space. Now another important thing, I've seen this happen before. You got numbers up here, a numbered list. Now if you need to, you can right click and you can restart numbering at any number you want. Okay, so this is another very important thing. If you're numbering throughout a document, you can restart at any time. And that's how you do it. You just select, right click. Okay. Another thing that I talked about here, I've seen this done so many times, so I'm going to teach a couple little strategies, and this just drives me nuts. It's a total amateur problem. So let's say someone's working with some tables, and I'm going to do a little, I don't know, table like this, and I'm going to say this is heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. Okay, so space it. Now you could technically, you know, make those headings and it's going to look really nice. So again, don't go through the effort of tweaking using different font types and styles and all that other kind of stuff. Use the built-in styles, because again, if this ever gets imported into a professional layout program, you've created a massive nightmare for someone who's going to have to clean this stuff up. Now, I'm going to turn on, under View, Showing Rulers. And this is a giant pet peeve of mine that I've seen tons of times. So I'm going to just grab some gobbledygook from a couple of pages here, or just to paste in some stuff. So let me just find something useful here. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Title feedback, okay. All right. I will not comment on that right now, but I did have thoughts. Okay, so I'm going to just do copy. You see how I'm copying? I'm doing the Command Shift V. Okay, V. And things, those, these. All right, so let's say I've got some stuff in here. Now again, perfectly acceptable. We could embed some bullets. Okay. And again, if we didn't want the, let's say we wanted an extra space in there, I can do the Shift Return. Now here's where things get yucky for some people. You see here, I've seen people who literally, you notice how this formatting, let's say it moves off, and you'll see that stuff gets cut off. And I've literally seen people who don't realize how formatting works, and they go in and they try to make up, oops, by putting spaces in here to move stuff around, okay? That's dumb. Don't do that. So here's a very, very important thing. If you are going to tweak a cell, okay, first of all, you don't want to actually tweak the formatting in just a cell. This is really, really important. What you want to do is select an entire column and tweak that, okay? Because what will happen is you'll start noticing that your formatting starts going all over the place, and people start not understanding what's going on and try to like format. And again, I hope you understand what I'm doing when I'm moving this stuff around up here. They start trying to format one thing in a cell, and then a cell below is all messed up, and they can't understand why. It's because they're adjusting only the formatting in a certain cell, and if you start tweaking and messing around with just one cell, and then you try to undo that, it becomes an absolute total nightmare. It's just gross. So that's a giant, giant lesson, and you can see how this thing got messed up. And again, embedded spaces, bad, bad, bad. No spaces ever. Everything should be a tab or something where you're actually formatting. So I am going to select this, and I'm going to highlight it, make it yellow, make it bold, and then I'm going to make it 36-point font and put an arrow next to that. Okay, so that's one time when this is allowed. Do not use spaces ever. They're bad. The other thing, this is a matter of style. I'm a huge believer in never putting double spaces inside something. We have proportional type these days. The whole idea that people do 2 spaces between words is completely outdated. And again, it creates an ugly nightmare for a professional typesetter if they ever are going to import your document and print out a book. Okay. So another thing is with embeddable links. All that means is, let's say, for example, you had, oh, I don't know. Let's say you had a link here to, let's find something. Okay, from this one right here, from Justine, and she's got her new book. All right. So let's say I want that embedded link. So I can say, if I select this and click on a link, paste the link in here, boom, okay, apply it, okay, that's a nice embedded link. And you can see that it's set up right now. That's totally acceptable. And again, I would highly recommend that you just use standard embedded links. And you know, they're going to go somewhere when this thing gets saved or printed out as a PDF. So we've covered tables. We've covered formatting inside of tables. We've covered the bold and the highlights. Again, I kind of showed you that up here, but that's just simply going to highlight, picking yellow. This really stands out. Use it sparingly. Now, there's two other things here, suggestions and group editing. So one of the things that Google Docs just recently added is the capability to do suggesting where edits become suggestions. And that means at this point, if I said I would recommend changing this to, say, don't eat your children, okay, that style format now, that just shows up as being green. You can see it, and if I do a checkbox right here, that would accept this change. Okay, so what it means is if you're doing group edits and you're not the owner of a document, it's really, really cool to actually put suggesting on and start editing that way for whoever the group owner is. Really nice, because then it shows up. This is really good if you are editing a book as a team. Next thing that's really, really handy here is the share. So one really cool is, let's say I wanted to share this with My Little Pony at gmail.com. I can do add a note and say, hi Pony, here is that cool document I promised you. Please make edits as you see fit, and make sure you turn on suggesting in the editing menu. Okay, so again, you can give people privileges for commenting for view only. Also, if you want, when you click on this, you can actually get a shareable link, and you can just copy that right now and you could email that to someone. So I'm obviously not going to share this with My Little Pony today, but that's how that is done. And at this point, I'm going to just take a quick gander through and make sure I've given you everything you need. Again, I added some extra formatting. But the summary here, and this is probably the most important thing of all, is do everything you can to use styles. Again, naming your documents, critically important. I see so many times where people are hyper sloppy about this, and if you can't find your documents later on, or no one knows what they're called, like for example, we have publish and profit. Okay, so I see variations all the time of our product here. So it's I see publish and profit. I see publish and profit. I see P and P. Okay, oh, and then P and P, like that. Well, here's the thing. If I'm searching for publish and profit and I'm using this, it isn't going to show up, which is bad. So I've made a point now of sometimes putting all of them in there. I spell everything out. Longer, in my experience, is always better. So using acronyms and titles is dumb. Not unless it is universally accepted amongst your group and your team. So name things using whatever the globally accepted format is. Or again, if something is dependent on you existing and being alive, it wasn't done right. Always plan as if you might get hit by a truck tomorrow. And if you're not building your documents, so you're working yourself out of a job effectively, that's actually what makes you more valuable, is when your knowledge can be passed on to someone who can cost less than you, so you can be working on more valuable tasks. That's my personal opinion anyway. So I'm going to stop right now and just lean over to Jamie and see if you have any questions or comments so far, anything that doesn't make sense, something you'd like me to review or share or show off.
I don't think so. Originally, I had a question about what you meant by high content titles, but I think you went over that really clearly. Just do everything long ways, and we got some good shortcuts, and it sounds good to me.
Okay.
I'm ready to get going with Google formatting.
Okay. I'm going to show you one other thing that's super, super handy. Because we often create documents and we're doing them in a group environment, one thing that's really, really, really valuable is to select something like this. And if you use Option Command M, which, by the way, is a comment. That's Command Option M right there. I can comment on something, so I'll say, this is a really important thing to remember. It will save you a lot of time and frustration in the future if you ever want to have a document professionally typeset or formatted. Okay? Plus, it's easy to apply different styles and have everything change in the entire document. Okay, so when I save that, okay, so when I hit comment, first of all, that's saved. Everyone who this document has been shared with is going to receive an email with a summary of all the comments at some point, and they can choose to either resolve these, but it's the most valuable way to edit and work on a book together as a group, especially if you're interviewing someone, for example, and you want them to see some notes while they're maybe dictating their book. We're actually editing simultaneously, so sometimes 4 or 5 of us are actually working on a document at once. But comments, instead of putting something like, hey Jamie, make sure you change this thing because I want you to. That, first of all, you're going to miss it. You won't see it half the time unless you go in here and you bold and highlight and everything else. But more importantly, then they have to go in and actually delete it. Here it's sort of like, they'll just go in and change it, hit either resolve, or you can even comment and say, here's my comment and why I decided to change something to something else. Okay?
Can you talk about like when you would want to use comments versus suggesting and editing?
Okay, yeah, great question. So oftentimes when we're doing suggestions, those are suggested edits. So for example, I might put in here, I'm going to say this is Fuber, and then I can say, so I replace 5 with Fuber, I'm going to say, from now on, I am no longer allowed to say or type the word 5. Instead, I will use the word Fuber because a magic unicorn showed me the path to joy and happiness in my dream. Okay, so that would be a reason why, because magic unicorns tell you how important that is. Okay, so that would be, again, if you replace it here, then I could say, oh well, hey, that's a great idea. I like the word Fuber, so I'll just accept that, and you can see it actually deleted it, and from now on we started saying the word Fuber. Okay, good, and the magic unicorns are also gone. All right, so let's see if there's anything else. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
All right. Okay. Well, I think that's enough for now. Hopefully this is enough for our team to get in here and start using styles. But I know, especially like in our case, we often create our live event documents. And this is where we consistently have horrific formatting issues, or for order forms as well. And a lot of people don't know that, for an order form, for example, you can easily create a table, and you could just create a one object table here and go under table and do table properties and say, oh, okay, well, I want my table border to be a slightly different color. I might want it to be 3 points and indent it. I might want to pad it a little bit and create, like a bigger padding inside. It's a nice order form dealio. Again, ideally just use some of the standard fonts. Another really nice, oops, I'm going to turn off my suggesting now, turn it to editing. Another thing is inserting a horizontal line, for example. And that's a really, really useful object. So you can put that between text. Another one that I'm just going to see here, if view compact controls mode. Okay, so there's one thing I'm not a big fan of here, and I'm looking for it right now, is if this thing will show us. It doesn't look like it will. What I wanted to do is see if there was some way it would show me all of the formatting, but I don't see a place where that is the case. By the way, doing table of contents, pretty easy. Headers and footers, that's another really valuable thing to spend some time on. Okay, I guess I don't see it right now, but really what I wanted to show off, this is something, another pet peeve of mine, which is, I see this happen all the time. People will actually put hard carriage returns in between stuff. Okay, so that's another must never. Whenever you want to enter in and do a page break, you insert a page break, which is Command Enter. Really, really valuable. Again, if you're working in print layout, let's say this is page 2 or 3, and I go, bunch of stuff. Right click, misspelling, okay, and if I had a whole bunch of stuff after this, what would happen is, and if I wanted to do a, again, what an amateur does is does something dumb like this, and then if they end up putting something in here, it creates a whole bunch of spacing problems. What I was looking for earlier is, in Microsoft Word, you can show invisibles, paragraph controls. Instead, you do insert page break. Okay, then next page, and you might have your page of stuff after that. So again, really important. Why do we do that? Well, anytime you're doing blocks of stuff, and you might have pictures and so on and so forth, by putting the page breaks in there, first of all, it's a lot more elegant. And if you insert something up above, all those hard carriage returns end up pushing stuff down later on. It makes the whole document look like a giant amateurish pile of poop. Another thing that's really valuable to learn, if I were to copy this right now, if I'm going to insert an image, now remember that I can scale an image. I can also decide I can wrap text, and I can decide how big my margin's going to be, and I can even decide, where on the page it is. Just make sure that your image doesn't go outside of your margin like that, or it'll get cut off. If I were to, not have that, again, you see how it pushed the next page down and actually started a new page. All right. Anything else that you might have thought of? Okay, well, I'll finish this one off. Hopefully this was useful for you to listen to and watch from. Learn from. There you go. Much better. All right, here you are.